What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Beat the breakout with these waiver wire ads so that you get the stash, so you don't have to be fighting people next week on your waiver wires to get them. So get them now while you still can. If any of these guys are currently on your waiver wire, go immediately add them. Tajay Spears, Chuba Hubbard, Jeff Wilson, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, Jackson Smith and Jigba. All those guys should already be stashed on your roster. We've been talking about Josh Downs, Rashee Rice the last 2 weeks. So if they're not rostered, go double check and make sure that they're there. But if not, we will start with our first stash is going to be Kyler Murray. We've seen the quarterback landscape kind of just be up to this point if you don't have one of the top guys, especially with Anthony Richardson going down, Deshaun Watson not playing great. Kyler Murray is a mustache. We don't know exactly when he's going to be back because right now he is practicing. But he is going to get it off the pup. He is practicing, but we don't necessarily know when he's going to get back onto the field. And the big concern with Kyler Murray after tearing an ACL is he going to have that athletic explosion that you expect? But he is 87% available on ESPN and 67% available on Sleeper. And if we look back on 2023 stats, he was the QB4 on a fantasy points per game basis. So even if he isn't as mobile and he can still somehow be a top 9, top 8 type quarterback on a points per game basis whenever he does get in there for the Arizona Cardinals, that's going to be so valuable to you. So if you do have the roster space, Kyler Murray is probably my first mustache, just knowing that the upside that he has, especially with this quarterback landscape. My second mustache player is going to be Devin Singletary for the Houston Texans. Dameon Pierce, it's absolutely atrocious that he hasn't been able to grab a hold of the reins of this backfield and absolutely demolish in the 3-down workload. Devin Singletary has slowly but steadily started to creep up. 3.7 yards per carry, 5 receptions. He's the RB51 on the season, but on ESPN, 73% available, Sleeper, 79% available. So he's definitely readily available for you, but I think if anything were to happen to Dameon Pierce in the next few weeks, there's just a lot of stats that back up the fact that Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce are just starting to be a little bit more even. But even if we look at last week for week 6, Devin Singletary had 34 snaps compared to Dameon Pierce's 21. So Devin Singletary low-key is starting to pass Dameon Pierce on the depth chart, which is not good for Dameon Pierce, but it is good for Devin Singletary. So if you want to go add Devin Singletary, that definitely could be added. And then when you look at the usage in the early down workload, Devin Singletary is actually winning in the early down workload compared to Dameon Pierce. So all signs are pointing to Devin Singletary taking that next step. Dameon Pierce low-key might be droppable depending on your roster, depending on your league size, but I just don't like it. So I will definitely be looking to stash Devin Singletary. My next mustache candidate is going to be Michael Mayer. We talked about Michael Mayer earlier this week. We said he would be a good waiver wire target to have after his 12-point day in fantasy football. We love to see when these tight ends start to take that next step, and especially with how brutal the tight end landscape is outside the top 4 guys. Michael Mayer last week with 12 fantasy points in 81% snap share. If we looked at the previous weeks, 51, 66, and then last week when he got 81% snap share, he definitely did perform. So if Michael Mayer this week, I know Jimmy G looks like he's going to be out. So if Michael Mayer can step in with the backup quarterback, get those over the top type routes, I definitely love some Michael Mayer as a mustache. My next mustache is going to be Darrell Henderson. Now I know Zach Evans was the famous, the exciting go pick up off the waiver wire ad this last week. But the thing is, Zach Evans, we don't even know if Zach Evans is going to be the majority ball toucher. I mean, they brought up Royce Freeman from the practice squad and they re-signed Darrell Henderson. And you know, and I know how much Sean McVay loves some Darrell Henderson. So I think Zach Evans is low-key just stay away from Zach Evans when you can get the more cheaper, probably just as much upside shots with Royce Freeman, with Darrell Henderson. I would prefer Darrell Henderson, but if Darrell Henderson maybe is already taken by someone that is smart and is thinking ahead, then Royce Freeman will definitely do the trick. I think this week is going to determine who's going to be the starter for the next 2 weeks until Kyron Williams comes back after their bye. And so I definitely think go see what Darrell Henderson is going to be available. He's pretty much available in like 98% of your leagues. So I definitely like some Darrell Henderson. My next mustache is going to be Luke Musgrave. He was on a mustache video earlier this year for us. He's still on a mustache video for us because he still is not rostered in more than like 15% of leagues. 84% available in Sleeper, 98% available on ESPN. We've seen him. Dude looks electric. Dude looks elite when he gets on the field. I mean, he's had an 8, 10, 9 fantasy point type days, but as Jordan Love gets more comfortable, as his offense gets more comfortable, I think Luke Musgrave could definitely be taking that next step, definitely be helping you in the tight end category, especially with how terrible the tight end landscape is. Luke Musgrave could end up being a top 10 tight end by the middle to end of this season. We then move to my next mustache, and we're going to be talking about Jalen Hyatt for the New York Giants. The New York Giants, man, they have a ton of wide receivers. Nobody's done quite anything that we would say is absolutely amazing, but he's 98% available on ESPN, 84% available on Sleeper, so he's definitely a deep type target, but 5.10 fantasy points this last week where he got 73% snap share. If we look at the last 3 weeks, 60%, 46%, and 73% snap share. Jalen Hyatt, he's explosive. He's fast. That's stuff that the Giants need. Now, Tyrod Taylor, Daniel Jones haven't necessarily looked like the best type quarterback for you, but when you're talking about some maybe like a deep stash, if you play in a deeper league, those are some players that we definitely would be looking to add. Someone like a Jalen Hyatt, where they could definitely break the game open if you need him to on a week-by-week basis. But I love some Jalen Hyatt. So Jalen Hyatt is my next must stash. So we've already talked about a ton of these guys, so I don't want to continue to bring them up. But Jonathan Mingo, Michael Wilson, Marvin Mims, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Greg Dulcich, we talked about a ton of those guys in last week's video. And like I said, if those are the first guys that we talked about in the beginning video, like if those guys are not taken, these guys are also other mustache candidates. I like Michael Wilson. He's already flashed quite a bit. Greg Dulcich, I think tight end is needed in the Denver Broncos offense. So I think Greg Dulcich, if he can get healthy, would be something that's interesting. Wan'Dale Robinson, we talked about Jalen Hyatt. Wan'Dale Robinson has flashed for the Giants, so we like that. But those are some guys that I would also be potentially considering as well. If you haven't already, made sure that you double check the running back handcuffs. I mean, Zach Charbonnet is out there, Tank Bigsby, Tajay Spears, Jeff Wilson. Those are my top handcuffs. I mean, Chuba Hubbard's been providing value. We don't know what's going to happen between Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason. All sorts of great things. So make sure that your running back handcuffs are taken as well. We didn't talk about some honorable mentions, but Hunter Renfrow, Kadarius Toney, Demario Douglas. We've also talked about all those guys in past breakout stash type videos. Now they haven't necessarily broke out, but still, we like the talent on those guys. So just giving you guys a ton of options, a ton of people to think about in your mustache spot. So if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so much. We'll be back with another video tomorrow talking about the week 7 recap tomorrow night. But ask me any start sit questions down below. Ask me any roster construction questions. Happy to help you guys out as we pursue some fantasy football championships in week 6. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.